Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today we are going to be taking a look at No One Rides for Free by Judith Sonnet. I'm assuming that last name is Sonnet. The book is 107 pages, broken up into 10 chapters. There is also an epilogue and an afterword. In addition, there is a 27-page short story at the back of the book titled Cream Queen. I will give you a quick blurb. A woman and her 2 kids are kidnapped and held captive by a psychopathic pervert known only as the Man. What horrific shenanigans will they get up to, and will they survive? If you are unfamiliar with my videos, we are going to be doing a myriad of things. In this video, I will be giving you a content sample, which is essentially a novelty trigger warning. We will then be jumping into a general review, including some ratings for different aspects of the book. I will give you a plot summary. We'll have a little post-summary discussion, and we'll be out here. So, that being said, we are going to jump into a content sample for this book. If you were to pick up a copy of No One Rides for Free by Judith Sonnet and read it, you would find all of the following. You have gore, torture, mutilation, and death. And in this book, that does include genital mutilation. In addition, there is sexual abuse throughout the book, including sexual assault, rape, necrophilic acts, and incest. Also, there is some shit throughout the book, some shit scenes, including coprophilic acts and coprophagic acts. Then you have some vomit, including emetophilic acts. There's also elder abuse in the book. And finally, you have general filth, which in this book does include the ingestion of pus. So, that's going to be your content sample for No One Rides for Free. We're going to jump into a general review and ratings now. Stay with me here. I have one thing to say before we jump into ratings, and that is about the number of warnings on this book. That shit always gets on my nerves. Now, before some superfan of this book and of Judith Sonnet gets on my ass, I'm aware why that was done. All right? I know why she did it. Okay? I had to do some research to figure out why she did it because I am not a Last House on the Left fan, but I understand why she did it. She's going for the whole Last House on the Left traditional movie poster thing and one of the ratings is very clearly a nod to that if you're familiar with that movie poster. This part specifically, it's only a book, it's only a book, it's only a movie, it's only a movie. That movie sucks dick, by the way. The original is actually worse than the remake, in my opinion, and it's not even that disturbing comparatively to other grindhouse and extreme horror films that came out around the same time. So, the original I Spit on Your Grave is more disturbing than Last House on the Left. That's a tangent. However, most people, I would presume, are not going to pick up on that reference going into it, and I certainly didn't. So this struck me as a he who shall not be named so that my channel doesn't get struck situation with the fucking black page and warning extreme horror book at the bottom, like the really, really edgy shit. That's what this struck me as. It's only a book. It's only a book. It's only a book. And then you have an actual trigger warning. It goes over what's kind of in the book. Incredibly disturbing, extreme, okay? I got no problem with that. I think a trigger warning in a book is a good idea, especially if you're writing something as fucked up as this. We'll get into it, trust me. This book is rated X. I'm assuming that's another nod to fucking the movie, Last House on the Left. And then you have the Piece de Resistance, the big-ass fucking take on the poster, and kind of a joke, not take on the poster about how it's like we're legally obliged to give you time to put the book down and decide whether or not you want to continue reading. I get it's a joke. I get the reference now. I had to do some research, but I get the reference. As a first-time reader who came into it, it struck me as a very, very edgy thing. I now know that's not the case. However, I'm just putting that out there. It's not really a complaint. Really anymore. It was originally. I wrote that down. I was like, Jesus fuck, this is edge for the sake of edge, which To be fair, the book is literally edge for the sake of edge. I'm pretty sure the author has come out and said that it's like just extreme for the sake of it, which is fine. But the trigger warning thing always gets on my nerves when people excessively promote it as warning not for liberal woke snowflakes. Anyway, that's more of a tangent. Whatever. Not a big deal. I'm also the entire fucking praise section is also essentially just a big fucking trigger warning. The last one's from her dad talking about how I'm not reading this. Like, I get it's a reference. I don't know. It doesn't really fucking matter at all. We're going to get into our ratings now. These first numbers are rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is abysmal, 10 is incredible, 5 is not good, not bad, completely mediocre, completely mid. Or I guess mediocre has a slightly negative connotation, but I always refer to a 5 as mediocre. It's mid, it's nothing. For your plot and plot direction, it's a 5. It is a 5. I thought it was perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. Not a lot happens. It's a pretty short book, which is a given considering, according to the afterword, it was written in 10 days. I applaud the author for that. This is a pretty fucking good book for 10 days of writing. But it's a 5. Your tone's going to be a 6. Overall, tone was fine. Not a lot of... nothing really jumped out to me. There is one scene that we will get into when we do our summary that is crafted incredibly well. And it is so disturbing and so awful, and it hits you so hard. Made me feel gross, made me feel like I had to shower, which I think is something the author also said in the afterword. But it made me feel grimy. I haven't felt this dirty since I read something. I haven't felt this gross since I read the Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, and I haven't read something this disturbing since Hog. This is right behind Hog in terms of how disturbing it is. That being said, your characters and character development, it's a 3. 10 days, I get it. All right. The mom of the story isn't really written as a mom. I never really got like motherly impression from her. There's a whole shit ton of talk from her about, oh, he's hurting my little babies, and we're going to get into that in just a second about her fucking head speak. I think the word for that is thoughts. There's a whole shit ton of complaints I have about her thoughts. She's constantly thinking about how these are my babies, he's hurting my babies, blah, 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 but none of her actions or even the way that her thoughts are written really imparted in me the sense that she's their mother. I don't know, that kind of just fell to the wayside. Her thoughts. I didn't know whether to put this in prose or character, but I'm going to go more for character because the prose itself, writing this whole thing, is fine, but the character. Her thoughts are gratingly preachy, holier than thou, psychiatrist-esque. I don't really know how to call it. It's constantly reiteration about how evil the man is, about how they're all powerless and nothing they're being forced to do throughout the book to each other, to themselves, is their fault, about how they'll get out of this and they'll all go to therapy and be happy, and a bunch of other shit that sounds like that, and it is fucking draining. It's draining. She sounds like a psychiatrist. She sounds like a fucking shrink. It is draining. Okay? And she has a little voice that talks to her and says negative shit, and then she talks back to the voice about how that's wrong, or like the other way around, vice versa. It's draining. Not good. 3. Grammar and typos is a 5. I did not notice any typos. Didn't notice any grammatical issues. And then nothing on the flip side of that. Incredible grammar? Not there. Just a 5. Nothing wrong with it. Your dialogue's also a 5. Didn't really notice it. Serves the plot. Serves the book. Perfectly fine. Your prose? Prose is a 6. Overall, I thought the descriptions were very well written. That's kind of also more of a tone thing, but, you know, the descriptions themselves, the way the words are crafted, very well written. And again, the way that the scene is written, the tone that it imparts because of the language that is used and the way that it is crafted, it is done very well. Very well. Overall, the prose is mostly fine. Descriptions are great. The scene is written incredibly well. Okay? Personal enjoyment, it's a 3. I felt gross reading this. I felt awful. It made me feel bad inside. And I think that's kind of what the author intended. So that's a win for the author that I didn't really enjoy it very much, but it made me feel bad. These next two numbers are rated on a scale from 0 to 10. These are your disturbing factor and your gross out factor. 0 is not disturbing at all, not gross at all. 10 is the most disturbing, the most gross that you can imagine. For your disturbing factor, this book, No One Rides for Free by Judith Sonnet, was an 8 out of 10. I guess you can kind of think of the scale as logarithmic. Hog is a middle 9. All right? Hog's a mid 9. Zola, around an 8. This, high 8. High 8. I felt gross. I felt disgusting. It was awful. It was awful. Your gross out factor for this book is a 7. Zola is a 10, if that gives you kind of an idea. This is one of the grossest books I've read. It's not as gross as Hog. It's not as gross as Zola. It's a little bit it's in the more middle range of the really, really gross shit, but it is very, very gross. Quickly, I'm going to give you a review and rating of The Cream Queen, and then I'll give you a short summary when we get into spoilers. The Cream Queen short story, it's a 3 out of 10. Tangent alert, I'm going to start giving reviews for short stories the way that I was reviewing the crossed arcs, or the crossed arcs. I wasn't happy with how I did the Lost in Cat Brainland video. I would much rather, if I were to go back and redo that video, I would have rated each story individually out of 10, as opposed to rating the book as a whole. I think it kind of worked out for Lost in Cat Brainland, because a lot of those stories were the same on a lot of levels. So I thought that was fine overall. But if I were to go back, I probably would do it differently. I don't remember how I did Brain Cheese Buffet. I didn't really have a structure for anything when I reviewed Brain Cheese Buffet. But I remember rating the stories at the end of that video, like based on ranking them. So I'm going to start, when I review short stories, out of 10. Just out of 10, solid, no fucking other shit to worry about, okay? So Cream Queen, 3 out of 10. It's extremely shallow. There are a lot of typos, weird indentation, weird spaces, weird entering, and it's really nothing. It's really nothing. You want to talk about extreme for the sake of extreme? Cream Queen. Literally just the story, the plot, the characters go to the back of the stage just so we can talk about a woman who has an acne fetish. And I'll give it points for being unique. I've never heard of something like that before, but it's really nothing. It's really just nothing. So, we're going to get into a plot summary now. Massive spoiler warning. I'm going to tell you the major plot points of the book, as well as Cream Queen. As always, I purposefully shorten my summaries from what they technically could be and still be considered a summary to what I end up with, which is much shorter. I leave out a lot of details, a lot of tonal and character bits, so that if you go and read the book, you will have a very, very different experience. That being said, we're going to jump into it now. Judy, our protagonist, her daughter Poppy, and her son Ralph are on a cross-country road trip toward the children's college. After a pit stop at a gas station, Jody re-enters the car and finds a man in the back seat holding her son at gunpoint. She is instructed to drive. The man, while they are driving, continuously makes lewd and violent remarks towards the family. After spotting an elderly couple broken down on the side of the road, the man makes Jody stop. He kills the elderly man and forces the woman into the car next to him. He then forces the old woman to touch his dick. He then forces Ralph to take his own dick out and tries to get the old woman to jerk him off. She won't. The man, outraged, forces Jody to drive off the road and into the desert. After they arrive in a sufficient spot, the man forces everyone out of the car. He then forces Ralph and Poppy at gunpoint to strip and fuck each other. And it is horrific. We get horrific detail as to how Ralph is going in and out of her anus. And we spend a lot of time learning about their characters and how they feel towards each other, the very strong bond and love they have for each other. And it's very clear. There's a lot of emphasis. This is like the one time where Judy's thoughts are like generally helpful to the plot and the tone. And she's like talking about how their relationship is broken and nothing will ever be the same again. And it's done very well. And it's so bad. It's so bad. And the funny thing is, I pegged that scene as being something that would happen from the start of the book. And if you have seen a movie like Hate Crime, with the scene in Hate Crime or the opening scene in Trauma from 2017, I want to say, both of those scenes, while being in a movie, pale in comparison to how disturbing the scene in this book is written. It's just so much worse. I mean, Hate Crime is a dog shit movie and it's hard to take any of it seriously, but when they are done, the man shoots Poppy and kills her. He then forces Ralph to fuck her corpse again while having Jody give him a blowjob. He stops when the old woman makes a run for it, at which point he picks up a knife, guts her, shoves a string of anal beads into her mouth, and pulls them out of her mutilated guts. Ta-da! He calls it a magic trick, which, you know, kind of is. He then goes back to fucking Jody's mouth. While distracted, Ralph picks up the knife that the man used to gut the old woman and sticks it in the man's neck. Jody then skins and bites the man's penis off, then spits it in his face and pulls the knife out. The book ends with Jody and Ralph entering the gas station whence they came, startling the clerk who calls the police. Yeah. Let's talk about Cream Queen real quick. There's a woman, and she's has a paraphilia for acne and the cream that comes out of acne. And she cheats on her husband a bunch, ends up killing a guy because he calls her gross for having that. And then she accidentally kills a very rich man who found her on a message board. And then the book ends with her going home to her husband after he's texted her telling her that he knows all about her secret. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's legitimately nothing. That's all the breath I'm going to give that fucking story. I am not lying to you when I tell you that the scene in this book with Ralph and Poppy made me feel gross. It made me feel so gross. When I read something that like genuinely traumatizes me, or watch something that genuinely traumatizes me, I go to bed. And when I wake up, I feel a lot better. I don't feel as gross, as dirty, as disturbed. But I also have a hard time believing that it was real. And that happens very rarely. It used to happen a lot when I was watching extreme horror movies constantly. It's happened a couple of times with The Girl Next Door, kind of, with some of the scenes in that book. More so, that book just left me feeling disturbed and tired. With Zola a couple of times, with Hogg a couple of times. This is one of those situations. I had to open the book and reread the section. And always when I do that, it never disturbs me, even remotely as much as it did the first time, because I've already consumed it and turned it around in my head to make it make sense, right? And I had to reread that section to make sure that I hadn't, like, imagined it. I mean, I know I didn't, I knew at the time that I actually hadn't, but I had to just reiterate that to myself, like checking that something's in your backpack a couple of times, you know? Yeah, it's really fucked up. I think the author met their goal of writing a book that would absolutely fuck up a reader. And that's all I really have to say. If you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I release a video every Friday, or at least I try to. I read all my comments. I'll drop you a like, drop you a heart, respond if it's applicable, or if it's necessary, or if it makes sense for the situation. That's what applicable means, kind of, whatever. My opinions are my opinions, and my opinions alone. I would highly recommend you read this book. I will leave a link to it in the description as always. Go form your own opinions, support the author, all that good shit. And yeah, that's it. See ya.